Welcome to Under the Hood, a blend of business and sociopsychology. Business looks rational from the outside. It isn't. Under the Hood explores the hidden psychological and systemic forces that truly drive execution and performance. Incentives, blind spots, power dynamics, habits, fear. Why do smart organizations repeat the same mistakes? What really separates motion from progress? This is not armchair philosophy. We move from insight to behavioral engineering, practical tools, and decision frameworks you can apply immediately. Understanding is useful. Execution is mandatory. If it doesn't change behavior, it's entertainment.
That's it. That is the mandate, isn't it? We're here to close that gap. The one between knowing what you should do and, actually doing it.
Especially in these weird gray areas where the psychology of a leader completely overrates the rational strategy of the business. And today, we are diving deep into a topic that, on the surface, it sounds like a real champagne problem. But when you actually start to peel it back, it's a genuine psychological crisis.
Absolutely is.
We're talking about the success trap, the moment after you've already won.
It's the crisis of arrival. Think about it. You spend a decade, maybe more, climbing this impossibly steep mountain. You get to the top, you plant the flag, and then you look around and realize, the air is really thin up here.
And you have no idea how to get down.
Not without breaking your neck, no. The skills that got you up are useless for the descent.
Okay, so before we get into the vertigo of success, just a really quick bit of housekeeping for everyone listening.
Yeah, this is important.
Today's deep dive is going to be extremely tactical. We are going to break down a very specific structural ecosystem. There's a diagnostic tool, a matrix, a decision tool.
A lot of visuals.
Exactly. So please don't try to, visualize this in your head or scribble it on a napkin while you're driving. We've got you covered. All these templates are available for you to download. Just click the link in the description.
And I really want to emphasize this part. We aren't just, throwing PDFs into the void. This is about application. If you actually go through the process, especially the first step, the auto-diagnostic.
Which we're going to cover in detail.
Right. If you do the work, you can send your completed output to us. Our email is in the description too. We will actually look at it. We'll see the patterns, analyze the data, and give you some real feedback.
That's a huge offer.
It's about execution, not just listening, right?
It is. So please take advantage of that. Okay, let's get into this, the success trap. I want to start with a story from our source material that it really set the hook for me. It's about a founder. Let's call him Alex.
Yes. The post-LI case study.
Classic.
Classic.
Totally classic. So Alex is the grinder, right? Builds a company from nothing. It's all chaos, late nights, pizza boxes, the whole startup cliche.
The founder is hero stage.
Exactly. And he's smart enough to realize he's become the bottleneck for growth. So he brings in some help, a consultant to help him scale up and, more importantly, step back.
Which is, that's exactly what every business book, every NGA program, every board member tells you that you have to do.
Right. Make yourself redundant.
Work on the business, not in the business. We've all heard it 1,000 times.
And he does it. He actually pulls it off. He nails it. They clarify the strategy, they hire a killer C-suite, they delegate decision-making. The whole company moves from, like you said, founder heroism to organizational execution.
He builds the machine that runs itself, the dream.
It is the dream. The company's hitting all its financial targets, cash reserves are full, the team is totally autonomous. And so Alex walks into his office one Tuesday morning. He looks around and it hits him.
Nobody needs me.
Nobody needs him. And that's the moment, the source says, that the floor just drops out from under him. He turns to the consultant who helped him build all this and says, and this is the killer line, because of you, everything runs perfectly, and I'm starting to get bored.
And it's not the kind of bored like, I should take up golf.
No. It was described as a kind of existential rot, a deep, unsettling feeling.
It's the paradox of utility.
Exactly.
It's almost evolutionary.
Yeah.
We are wired to be useful, to solve problems. We need friction to get traction.
Friction gives us traction. I like that.
It's true. When you successfully engineer all the friction out of your daily life, which is what success often looks like, you lose your grip. You just start floating, drifting.
It reminds me of that feeling when you finish a massive all-consuming project or, a big show. The next morning you wake up and the silence in your head is it's deafening.
It is. But for these founders, that silence doesn't end. It just stretches on forever. And that's where the danger really starts.
So that's the setup for what we're exploring today, the meaning reemergence ecosystem.
Right. It's a very structured framework for entrepreneurs, for CEOs, for any leader in a transition who needs to figure out what's next without, and this is the key part, without imploding.
Imploding seems like a strong word. Are we really talking about people blowing up their lives?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. When these high-performance, high-agency individuals hit this void, they don't just, sit on the couch and watch Netflix. Their systems are not built for stillness.
They need action.
They crave action, so they self-destruct. They make catastrophic panic investments in businesses they don't understand. They start messy affairs. They start meddling in the company they just stepped back from, driving the new CEO crazy and destroying value. The silence terrifies them, so they fill it with noise. Any noise.
Okay, so this deep dive is really for that person who's maybe had an exit, or the CEO who's kicked themselves upstairs to chairman, or even just someone who's hit financial independence and is suddenly realizing that, margaritas on a beach get really, really boring by day 3.
It's for anyone who is experiencing that floating sensation. You've got all the comfort in the world, the money, the time, the freedom, but you have a complete lack of utility.
Yeah.
And that specific combination, comfort plus no utility, is unbelievably toxic if you don't manage it proactively.
This gets to the core philosophical anchor of this entire approach. And I have to say, it runs completely contrary to 99% of the self-help industry.
Which is probably why it actually works.
The central insight is this. Meaning is not a philosophical quest. You don't find it.
No. You absolutely do not find your purpose by trekking to an ashram in India or sitting on a mountaintop trying to think really, really hard about who am I.
That's the movie version.
It's the movie version, and it's a recipe for a downward spiral. The source material is very clear on this. Meaning is a consequence. It's a byproduct. It reemerges, that's why it's in the name of the system. It reemerges from friction, from responsibility, and from genuine engagement with a problem.
So meaning is what happens when you're busy doing other hard things.
Meaning is a byproduct of a well-designed structure. That's the mantra for this whole thing. Structure before projection.
Structure before projection. Okay, what does that mean?
It means you don't start by looking at shiny new opportunities. You start by building the container for your life first. If you don't, you will inevitably fall into one of two traps. We see it happen over and over again.
Okay, let's map these out. What's trap number 1?
Trap 1 is the blurry void. This is the stereotypical retirement fantasy. You let time just stretch out. You wake up with no plan. Maybe you go to the gym, have a 2-hour lunch, play a round of golf, plan a trip.
I mean, that sounds pretty good for a week.
For a vacation, it's the dream. For a life, for a person who is used to high intensity, it's a psychological nightmare. That total lack of friction means there's no feedback loop from the world.
You're not pushing against anything.
So you don't know if you're even there. It leads to this very specific kind of anhedonic depression. It's not sadness, it's just a dull, gray, featureless fog.
Okay, so the void is bad. I'm sold. What's the second trap?
The second one is the Band-Aid project. And honestly, this is often the more dangerous one, at least financially.
How's
You feel the terror of the void, you panic, and you just grab the first shiny object that someone dangles in front of you. I'll start another company. My buddy wants to open a restaurant. I'll back him. I always wanted to buy a vineyard.
So you're not doing it because it's a strategically sound idea. You're doing it because you are terrified of the silence in your own head.
You are literally medicating your existential boredom with operational complexity. You're building yourself a brand new prison voluntarily just so you have some walls to push against.
And it's usually a prison you end up hating.
Of course.
Ah.
Because you didn't design it, you just ran into it. Suddenly you're dealing with a broken freezer at 2 a.m. on a Sunday at a restaurant you never even wanted, all while you supposedly have $50 million in the bank. It's madness.
So to avoid the fog of the void and the chaos of the Band-Aid project, we have this 4-step ecosystem. You said it's engineered, it's linear.
And you cannot skip steps. It's crucial. Step 1 is the auto-diagnostic. We call it the mirror.
Okay.
Step 2 is integration. That's the filter. Step 3 is cartography, which is the map.
The map. I like that.
And finally, step 4 is arbitration. That's the spreadsheet.
I love that it all ends with a spreadsheet. It feels very, very on brand for us.
It grounds it in reality.
Okay, let's dive into step 1, the auto-diagnostic, the mirror.
Right. The entire goal here is, let's call it anti-New Age. We're not asking, how do you feel? On a scale of 1 to 10.
No vision boards.
No vision boards, no affirmations. This is a rational, non-dramatic, data-driven audit of your current situation. It's about facts.
And this diagnostic tool, which people can download, is broken down into 5 different axes. I want to go through these in some detail because my guess is this is where people lie to themselves the most.
It is absolutely the place where the most self-deception happens.
So Axe A, current position, the reality check.
The central question here seems simple, but it's actually deceptive. It's, how many days are you actually working? And maybe more to the point, what decisions don't depend on you anymore?
Why is that deceptive? It sounds straightforward.
Because founders, especially founders who've stepped into a chairman role, they love to tell themselves, oh, I'm still very involved. I'm in meetings all the time.
Right. They're on the calendar invites.
Exactly. But if you really look at it, are they deciding anything, or are they just commenting? Are they providing input, or are they the final word?
Ouch. That's the difference between driving the car and being the annoying backseat driver who keeps messing with the radio.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
So in this step, you have to brutally calculate your uselessness quotient. It's a real term from the source. If the company can run for an entire month without a single call to you and the numbers actually go up,
then you are, by definition, useless to its operations.
you are operationally useless. And look, that's a fantastic thing for your equity value. It's what you wanted. But it's a really, really hard fact for your ego to swallow. You have to write it down. I am currently 90% useless to the day-to-day running of this company.
That's a sentence that requires a stiff drink to write. Okay, moving on. Axe B, functional identity. This one really hit me. The idea of distinguishing between what I'm good at versus what I want to do.
Ah, yes. The competence trap. This is a huge one.
Unpack that. The competence trap.
Okay, so you spend 20 years becoming world-class at something. Let's say it's B2B enterprise sales or maybe crisis management. You are the person they call. You are amazing at it.
It's your superpower.
It is. So when a problem in that domain comes up, your instinct, your muscle memory, is to jump in and fix it. And when you do, you get this massive dopamine hit.
Yeah.
You feel competent, you feel useful, you feel relevant.
There's always a but.
But you might secretly hate it. You might be utterly, completely exhausted by it. We refer to these as completed skills.
Completed skills. I love that framing. It's not that you lost the skill.
Not at all. It's that you've mastered it. Think of it like a video game. You've beaten the level. You got the high score. You've unlocked the achievement. Do you really want to go back and play level 1 over and over again for the rest of your life?
Probably not. So in the diagnostic, you have to actively list things you are world-class at, but then you put them in a do not touch anymore pile.
Yes. You write down, I'm one of the best people in the world at firing a CFO. I know exactly how to do it, and I never, ever want to do it again.
And if you don't make that explicit,
If you don't write it down, the moment a friend calls you for advice on their difficult CFO situation, you'll say yes. Because you're flattered that they asked. You want to show you still got it. And then you'll be neck deep in someone else's drama, completely miserable and wondering how you got there.
that's powerful. Okay, Axe C, energy and intensity.
This is all about defining your sustainment rate.
Hmm.
We have such binary, romanticized memories of our success. We remember ringing the IPO
The
bell,
highlight reel.
the highlight reel. We conveniently forget the years of crippling anxiety, the ulcers, the divorce threats, the 3 a.m. panic attacks. We forget the actual cost.
The blooper tape, the behind-the-scenes footage.
Precisely. So you have to ask yourself, honestly, do I want central command intensity again? That's the CEO job, says high stress, high speed, all the time. Or do I want something more like distributed influence? Many people say they want to be in the mix, but their nervous system, their actual physical body, just can't handle that level of cortisol anymore.
This axis also has a section on identifying toxic constraints. What are those?
They're the specific activities that are like kryptonite to your energy. They don't just tire you out, they drain you. For some people, it's air travel. The thought of getting on another plane is just soul-crushing. For others, it's managing interpersonal HR disputes.
Or fundraising.
Oh, fundraising is a huge one. You need to get incredibly specific about the parts of the job that are now fundamentally toxic to your system, even if you were good at them.
Got it. Okay, Axe D is capital and risk. This seems straightforward on the surface, right? How much money do you have? But I'm guessing it's deeper than that.
It's much deeper. It's not about the number in your bank account. It's about the function of that money. Now, you have to ask, what is this money for? Is it for security, meaning you never have to worry again? Is it a scoreboard, a way to prove you're smarter or more successful than your peers? Or is it a lever, a tool for action and building new things?
And what about the real security threshold?
This is a critical number to understand. It's the answer to the question. How much money can I lose without panicking? without it affecting my sleep.
And people get this wrong all the time.
All the time. You see people with, say, $20 million in wealth,
Mhm.
but if they make a $50,000 angel investment and it looks like it might go to zero, they absolutely freak out. They start calling the founder every day.
So even though they have millions, their actual risk capital is basically zero.
Exactly. Their play money is zero. It's all sleep money. And if you're investing with scared money, you will micromanage, you will make fear-based decisions, and you will inevitably destroy the very project you're trying to help. You have to know your number.
Okay, the last one, Axe E-projection.
This is the final gut check. It's about identifying your internal blocks and drivers before you even look at external opportunities. It asks, what attracts you? What repels you? But we're really looking for the negative drivers here, the away-from motivations.
Give me an example of a negative driver.
Someone says, I want to start a venture capital fund. Okay, why? And if the honest answer is because I'm terrified of becoming irrelevant and I want to make sure I still get invited to all the cool conferences.
That's a projection based on fear.
It's projection based on a fear of irrelevance, not a genuine desire to be a great investor and steward of other people's capital.
So if the core motivation is something like, I don't want to be forgotten, or I don't want to seem like a has-been, that's a massive red flag.
It's the biggest red flag. Fear makes for terrible, terrible strategic life decisions.
Wow. Okay, so at the end of step 1, you've completed the diagnostic. You're left with 5 pages of just brutal honesty. A document that says, I'm 90% useless, I hate doing sales, even though I'm great at it, I can't handle high stress anymore, I'm secretly terrified of losing a single dollar, and I'm motivated by a deep-seated fear of being seen as a failure.
A slightly harsh summary, but
Yeah.
yes, fundamentally that is the raw data you're left with.
So what's next? Do we look at that and immediately make a decision?
No, stop. That's the single biggest mistake people make. They see that data and they leap to a conclusion. Oh my God, I hate stress. I should buy a flower shop. No, you are just holding the raw, unprocessed materials.
You haven't made sense of it yet.
You have it. Now we need to process it. And that brings us to step 2, integration.
You called this the filter.
Right. The source material uses the French term socle. In architecture, the socle is the base, the plinth, the foundation that the entire structure stands on. If your socle is weak or poorly defined, the whole castle is just going to crumble.
So what goes into building this socle? What does that look like?
It's surprisingly simple, but not easy. You sit down and you write 10 to 15 lines. That's it. These are your absolute non-negotiables. And they're broken down into 3 categories: preservation, refusal, and conditions.
Let's start with preservation. This sounds a bit like self-care, but with a harder edge.
It's much more rigid. It's structural. It's not about bubble baths. It's about drawing hard lines. For example, I will pick my kids up from school at 4 p.m. every Tuesday and Thursday, period. Or I take the entire month of August off every year and my phone is off. Or I do not work on weekends, ever.
A lot of entrepreneurs listening to this are probably breaking out in a cold sweat right now. That sounds like setting limitations, and they're taught to be limitless. Hustle culture. Sleep when you're dead.
And that's the exact mentality that gets you to a successful exit. It is absolutely not the mentality that will sustain you in the next chapter of your life. It's a different game with different rules. If you do not define what must be preserved, the world will happily eat all of your time. Your time is like a gas. It will expand to fill whatever container you put it in. You have to build the walls of the container first.
Okay, that makes sense. Then the second category is refusal.
This is where you get explicit about what's off the table. No operational management of teams larger than 10 people. No investments in industries I do not fundamentally understand, like biotech. No pre-revenue, pre-product startups.
It feels like you're just closing doors on opportunities.
You are. That's the entire point. You must close doors. True freedom is not having infinite choice. Infinite choice is just paralysis. True freedom is consciously choosing which doors to lock so you can focus all your energy on the few doors that actually matter.
And the last category, conditions.
These are what must be true for me to even consider engaging statements. For instance, I will only engage in a project if I have a veto right on key strategic decisions, or I will only consider a board role if there is a strong CEO already in place who handles all day-to-day operations.
So the idea is, before a friend can even send you a pitch deck, before a headhunter can call you about a chairman role, you run the opportunity through this socle first.
It's a pre-filter,
Yeah.
a search engine filter for your life. You wouldn't go on Amazon and just type stuff into the search bar. That's insane. You'd type men's running shoes, size 10, blue, under $100.
Right.
The socle does the same thing for your life. It allows you to look at a tempting opportunity and say, that looks interesting, but it violates my no international travel rule. So it's a pass. It saves you weeks, sometimes months, of wasted time and emotional energy doing due diligence on things that were never going to work for you anyway.
Okay, this is starting to feel very engineered. We have the raw data from step 1, and now we have the filter from step 2. So now, finally, we can start looking out at the world of possibilities. Step 3, cartography, the map.
Exactly. And the key here is that we are visualizing families of engagement, not specific individual projects. We move away from a simple list and into a 2x2 matrix.
Okay, for everyone listening, let's paint a picture. Imagine a big square divided into 4 equal quadrants. To understand the map, we need to define the axis.
The vertical axis is your level of real responsibility. At the very bottom of the axis, you're just a passive observer. You have no skin in the game. At the very top, you are the key decision maker. Your choices have significant consequences. If you fail to make a decision, the whole thing dies.
Got it. Vertical is responsibility from low to high. What's the horizontal axis?
The horizontal axis is the intensity of engagement. On the far left, it's low energy, low time commitment. On the far right, it's high energy, high time commitment. It's the grind.
Okay, so this gives us 4 distinct zones. I think walking through them is where the big aha moments are going to happen for people. Let's start in the bottom left. Zone A, low intensity and low responsibility.
We call this one the deceptive comfort zone.
What are some examples of activities in this zone?
This is passive investing, where you just write a check and hope for the best. It's symbolic advisory roles, where a startup puts your name on their slide deck for credibility, but they never actually call you.
Or just endless leisure, traveling, playing golf.
That's the big one. And it's called the deceptive comfort zone for a reason. Why do you think that is?
Because it sounds amazing. It sounds like the goal.
It is the goal
Mm.
for about 90 days. It's the perfect decompression chamber after an exit. But remember our core equation. Meaning comes from friction. In Zone A, there is zero friction. You have no real responsibility. Nobody actually cares if you show up or not. And you have no intensity. You aren't breaking a sweat, mentally or physically.
So you become a ghost in your own life.
You become irrelevant. And for someone who has spent their entire life being a creator, a builder, an agent of change, irrelevance is a slow-acting poison. It feels empty.
Okay, let's jump to the opposite corner of the map. Zone C. That's high intensity and high responsibility.
This is the combat zone.
And this is familiar territory for our audience. This is starting a new startup from scratch.
Yes. Or taking on a major turnaround project. Or stepping into a CEO role at a company in crisis.
Now, is this zone inherently bad? I feel like a lot of our listeners thrive in Zone C. It's their natural habitat.
It is not inherently bad at all, but it is incredibly dangerous if you enter it in a state of denial. The reality of Zone C is that it requires combat energy. It is all-consuming. It's sleepless nights, constant pressure, total mental and emotional absorption.
It's the addiction they're trying to get away from.
It's the addiction. And the real danger is when you lie to yourself. You say things like, oh, it'll be easier this time because I'm older and wiser, or I'll just do a little startup on the side.
There's no such thing as a little startup.
There is no such thing. It's like being a little bit pregnant. It's a binary state. If you choose to enter the combat zone, you need to do it with your eyes wide open, fully aware that you are going back to war. And if your diagnostic in step 1 clearly said, I have low energy reserves and I can't handle high stress anymore, and you leap back into Zone C,
You're going to burn out fast.
that's you toast in 6 months. Guaranteed.
Okay, so that leaves the 2 tricky ones in the middle. Let's talk about what seems like the worst quadrant, Zone D. That's high intensity but low responsibility.
Energy drain. Or, more bluntly, the hell zone.
How does someone even end up in a situation where they're working really hard but have no actual responsibility or authority?
It happens constantly. Think about the consultant who gets brought in to fix a struggling company, but the CEO is defensive and won't actually implement any of the recommendations.
Oh, I've seen that movie.
Right. You're working 60-hour winds, you're stressing, you're fighting. That's the high-intensity part. But you have no authority to actually change anything. You can't hire, you can't fire, you can't pivot the strategy. That's the low responsibility part.
You have all of this stress and none of the control.
That is the perfect psychological recipe for burnout, resentment, and, frankly, a heart attack. It is fatigue without any meaning. You must learn to identify Zone D situations and avoid them at all costs.
Which brings us, finally, to the promised land. Zone B. That's high responsibility, but low intensity.
The golden area. This is for many people in this transitional phase, the ultimate target.
Give me some concrete examples of what lives in Zone B.
This is where you find things like strategic board seats. And I mean real ones, where your vote matters, not the symbolic ones from Zone A. It's roles like being a venture partner at a fund. Or, my favorite concept from the source material, acting as a sniper.
A sniper. I love that imagery. Break that down for me.
Okay, think about it. A sniper doesn't run around the battlefield with a machine gun screaming and spraying bullets everywhere. That's Zone C, that's the combat grunt.
Right.
A sniper finds a high vantage point. They wait, they observe, they understand the entire terrain. They might only be active for 5% of the battle, but they take one perfectly aimed shot, and that single shot changes the entire outcome of the war.
So you're intervening very rarely, but your intervention is incredibly decisive and high leverage.
Exactly. You have high responsibility. If you miss the shot, it has massive consequences. But you have low intensity. You aren't grinding it out in the trenches 80 hours a week.
That really does sound like the sweet spot. You feel important, you feel useful, your contribution matters, but you can still go to your kid's soccer game at 4 p.m.
That's it. So the entire goal of step 3 of this mapping exercise is to make a conscious choice. To say, based on my diagnostic and my non-negotiables, I want to play in Zone B for the next chapter of my life.
And once you make that declaration,
You can instantly delete entire categories of opportunities. Someone comes to you with a pitch for a new startup they want you to run. That's Zone C. You say, thank you, but I'm not playing in that zone right now. You stop wasting time on things that don't fit the structural geometry of the life you're trying to build.
so we've narrowed the field, we've decided we want to play in Zone B, but let's say you're a desirable candidate. You suddenly have 3 different Zone B opportunities on your desk. There's a strategic board seat at an interesting fintech company, a part-time strategy role at a major nonprofit you care about, and a venture partner offer from a top-tier VC fund. They all fit the map, they all seem great. How on earth do you choose between them?
And that is the perfect bridge to our final step. Step 4, arbitration. The decision tool.
The dreaded spreadsheet returns.
The necessary spreadsheet. And this is a really important shift. In step 3, we were being visual, intuitive, heuristic. In step 4, we become analytical, rational, and mathematical. The absolute rule is, do not mix these 2 modes of thinking. Step 3 is asking, what game do I want to play? Step 4 is asking, of the available options, which specific move should I make?
Okay, so walk us through this decision-making tool. What does the spreadsheet actually look like?
It's pretty straightforward. Column 1 is what we call the lock. This is where you import your hard constraints, your non-negotiables, from the SOCL in step 2.
So let's use our example. Let's say the nonprofit role requires a monthly board meeting in Africa, and one of your lot constraints is no international travel more than twice a year.
Then that opportunity is dead on arrival. It doesn't even get to be scored. It is eliminated immediately, right at the start.
Brutal, but efficient.
It has to be. Otherwise, you'll start making exceptions. So column 2 is your criteria and weighting. This is where you create 10 to 12 personal decision criteria based on what you learned about yourself in the diagnostic. And then you assign a percentage weighting to each one.
Give me some examples of criteria.
It could be anything. Intensity of work might be one. Level of governance and control is a big one. Intellectual stimulation, financial upside, liquidity, alignment with personal values.
I noticed in the source example, liquidity was weighted quite low, like 5%.
For that specific persona, yes. For someone who had just had a major exit, immediate cash might not be the priority. But if you're in a different situation, maybe liquidity is your number 1 criterion and you weight it at 30%. The weighting has to be a ruthlessly honest reflection of your values, not what you think you should care about.
Okay. And then I assume column 3 is where you score each of the competing projects against these criteria, say, on a scale of 0 to 5.
Correct. And this is where the magic happens. This is the mechanism that makes the whole thing work. We call it the kill switch rule.
I love a good kill switch. Tell me how it works.
The rule is simple. If any project scores a 0 or 1 on any of your heavily weighted criteria, let's define that as any criterion weighted at 10% or more, that project is immediately eliminated.
Even if its overall average score is really high.
Even if its total weighted score is the highest of all the options.
Okay, you have to explain the logic there, because normally we're all trained to just look at the final score, the total at the bottom.
Right. But averages hide fatal flaws. Let's take your example. The fintech board seat. Let's say the potential financial upside is massive. You scored a 5 out of 5 on financial upside. It's also super prestigious, so you give it a 5 on ego status. The total score is looking fantastic.
Out.
But you've heard from multiple sources that the CEO is a nightmare control freak who ignores the board's advice. So on your criterion of governance and control, it gets a score of 0.
And let's say governance is weighted at 15% for you because you hate conflict.
Then the project dies. The kill switch is triggered. The spreadsheet tells you to walk away. Because the logic is that no amount of money can compensate for a toxic work environment if having control over your own work is something that is fundamental to your mental health.
So the kill switch prevents you from being seduced by the one or two really shiny parts of a deal and ignoring the glaring red flag.
It's a circuit breaker for your own rationalization engine. It exposes the deal breakers that a simple average would paper over. It stops you from saying, well, the boss is a jerk, but the money is so good, I'll just deal with it. That never works.
This requires an incredible amount of discipline. You have to be willing to trust the system you built and walk away from a deal that feels good on paper.
That's why this step is called arbitration. You are arbitrating a dispute between your emotional biased brain and your rational systems-based brain. The spreadsheet is the judge.
And the output of step 4, it's not just the final decision, is it? The source says it also helps you define your stop criteria.
Yes, this is the final, crucial safety net. Once you've made your choice, you write down your exit conditions before you even start. You say, okay, I'm taking this venture partner role. But T, if the time commitment exceeds 10 days a month for 2 consecutive months, I will resign. Or if the fund makes an investment that violates my ethical framework, I'm out.
You're essentially writing the prenup before the wedding.
You are defining the terms of the divorce before you even go on the first date. Because once you're inside, once you're emotionally invested, your judgment gets clouded. You need a pre-agreed, objective trigger that tells you when it's time to pull the parachute.
Wow. This is an incredibly rigorous process: diagnostic, integration, cartography, arbitration. It really is engineering applied to major life choices. But let's be real for a second. Doing this all by yourself seems incredibly hard. You can lie to yourself in a spreadsheet just as easily as you can in a journal.
That's completely true. Self-deception is probably the most powerful force in the universe, especially for highly successful people who are used to bending reality to their will.
So that brings us to the last section of the source: the role of coaching or accompaniment. When does someone need to bring in an external brain for this?
I'd say you need it in 2 main situations. First, when the self-assessment just yields confusion. You do the diagnostic and you look at the pages and you just think, I have no idea what any of this means. And second, and this is more common, is when you spot a major contradiction.
What's an example of a contradiction?
Your diagnostic says, I want to have a massive impact and be the key decision maker. That implies high responsibility, but it also says, I want to have 0 stress and leave the office at 3 p.m. every day. That implies low intensity.
So you want to be the CEO, but only work part-time.
You want to live in Zone C and Zone B simultaneously. You're looking for a unicorn. It doesn't exist. An external party, a coach or a sparring partner, can act as a mirror and gently but firmly point that out. They can say, these 2 desires are in direct conflict. You are going to have to choose which one is more important.
The source also makes a very clear distinction about what this kind of coaching is and, more importantly, what it isn't.
Yes, and this is crucial. It is not therapy. We are not digging into your childhood trauma or your relationship with your mother. And it is absolutely not life coaching in the motivational rah-rah sense.
You don't need a cheerleader.
You're already successful. You're self-motivated. You need a governor.
A governor, like on an engine.
Exactly. Or like a chairman of the board for your life. The source calls it strategic arbitration. It's an adult-to-adult conversation between peers about governance, trade-offs, risk, and systems. The person's job isn't to make you feel good. Their job is to hold you accountable to the system you designed and ensure you don't accidentally build yourself another prison.
Strategic arbitration. I like that. It strips away all the emotional fluff. It's about decision hygiene.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground here. We started with this vague, amorphous feeling of the boredom of success, and we've walked through a full-blown engineering process to solve it. Diagnostic to constraints to matrix mapping to rational scoring.
It's a journey from the abstract and emotion, that feeling of being in the void, all the way to the concrete and rational, which is the final number in the spreadsheet.
If someone listening only remembers 1 or 2 big ideas from this entire deep dive, what should they be? What's the highest level takeaway?
I think the single most important one is this. Do not confuse intensity with meaning.
That's the big one, isn't it?
It is. You could be incredibly busy, running around zone C or zone D, working yourself to the bone, and be completely and totally empty inside. We get addicted to the adrenaline of the combat zone, and we mistake that chemical rush for a sense of purpose. It's not. The withdrawal from that adrenaline is real and it's painful, but that pain is not a lack of meaning. It's just withdrawal.
Okay. And the second one?
Don't confuse influence with being the center of attention. True leverage, especially for a leader in this next phase, lives in Zone B, the sniper. You can have a far greater impact on the outcome of the war by taking one perfect shot than you can by being the loudest person sleeping in the trenches.
And the last one?
Freedom is not the absence of constraints. That is a common misunderstanding. A total absence of constraints is just a vacuum. And vacuums are terrifying and unsustainable for human beings. True freedom is the ability to choose your constraints, to consciously design your own friction.
Design your own friction. That's the bumper sticker for this whole episode.
That's the mission.
Okay. Execution is mandatory. So here is your call to action. If any of this resonated with you, if you are feeling that drift, that post-success vertigo, don't just go buy a sports car. Download the templates from the link in the description. Set aside 20 minutes this week and do the step 1 diagnostic. Just that one step. Be brutally honest with it.
And as we said at the top, if you do it, send it to us. We're genuinely curious to see the data, and we will help you spot the contradictions and the patterns.
Perfect. To close us out, leave us with one final provocative thought, something for people to chew on.
We often look at our calendars and we complain about how full they are, how busy we are. But if you've achieved a certain level of success, you are the architect of that calendar. Every meeting, every call is a choice. And meaning doesn't come from infinite choice. It comes from choosing the right friction. So my question for you is this. Look at your calendar for next week. Which friction on there did you consciously choose, and which friction are you just enduring?
Oof, which friction are you just enduring?
That is definitely going to sting a few people. Thanks for listening to Under the Hood. We'll see you in the next deep dive.